The Galactic Council had made their decision 3 rotations ago, and now the enforcement fleets were positioning themselves around the small blue world in the outer rim. Admiral Zekthar of the Hegemony watched the tactical display with satisfaction as his massive dreadnought, the Eternal Dominion, took its place among the blockade formation. 12 different species had contributed ships to this operation, representing the largest combined military action in galactic history. Such a small planet to cause so much trouble, mused his tactical officer, a crystalline being whose thoughts manifested as shifting light patterns across her surface. The world below them appeared deceptively peaceful, swirled with white clouds and blue oceans, continents brown and green beneath the atmospheric veil. Zekthar's mandibles clicked in what passed for amusement among his kind. The humans had been given standard galactic law regarding expansion beyond their home system. Like every other species before them, they were expected to submit to council authority, accept their designated settlement worlds, and integrate peacefully into the established order. Most species required only a show of force to comply. The sight of a single council dreadnought was usually sufficient to convince any primitive civilization of the futility of resistance. Humans, however, had responded to the council's generous offer with what could only be described as crude defiance. Their transmission back to the council had been brief and contained several words that the universal translators had marked as extremely offensive in most galactic languages. The final phrase, "Come and take it," had been delivered by what appeared to be their military leadership with an expression that conveyed unmistakable hostility. "Admiral, we're receiving multiple transmissions from the planet's surface," reported the communications officer, a tall, spindly Veltari whose forearms worked independently across multiple control surfaces. "They appear to be music?" Zekthar frowned or performed the closest equivalent his species could manage. "Music, are they attempting some form of surrender ritual?" "Unknown, sir. The patterns are unlike anything in our cultural databases. Some appear to be what their language calls rock and roll. Others are labeled death metal, and several are simply listed as war songs. They're broadcasting on all frequencies." The Admiral dismissed this with a wave of his primary manipulator. Primitive species often engaged in meaningless rituals when faced with overwhelming force. What mattered was that the humans understood their situation. 12 fleets representing civilizations that had conquered thousands of worlds now surrounded their tiny planet. The combined firepower aimed at Earth could reduce continents to molten slag. "Any response to our final ultimatum?" Zekthar asked. "Yes, sir. A single transmission from their global military command. It reads, 'We told you to come and take it.'" "What's taking so long?" Several officers on the bridge exchanged glances. This level of defiance was unprecedented. Even the most warlike species in galactic history had eventually recognized the futility of fighting the combined might of the Council. The Corvin Hive had lasted 3 days. The militant empire of Thax had managed an impressive 2 weeks before surrender. "Perhaps," suggested the tactical officer, "they simply don't understand the numbers they face. Their mathematics may be too primitive to comprehend the disparity." Zekthar considered this. The humans had achieved faster-than-light travel only recently, suggesting a relatively young technological civilization. Their first contact with galactic society had occurred merely 6 months ago when Council scouts had detected their crude FTL signatures. A standard diplomatic mission had been dispatched to explain galactic law and integrate them peacefully into the established order. That mission had never returned. The search and rescue operation had found the diplomatic vessel drifting in space, completely intact but empty. Every member of the crew had vanished without a trace. No signs of violence, no indication of struggle, no bodies. The ship's logs had been wiped clean except for a single entry. The humans said thanks for the ship and asked us to walk home. "Sir," the communications officer interrupted his thoughts, "we're detecting massive energy signatures from the planet's surface. It appears they're powering up some kind of defensive installations." "Planetary shields?" Zekthar asked, though he doubted any species this young could have developed adequate protection against Council weaponry. "Negative, sir. The energy patterns are unusual. Our sensors are having difficulty identifying the technology. It doesn't match any known defensive systems in our databases." This was mildly concerning but not unexpected. Young civilizations often developed unique technologies before joining galactic society. Whatever defensive measures the humans had, constructed would be primitive compared to weapons that had been refined across millennia of warfare. Fleet. Commanders are requesting permission to begin bombardment, reported the tactical officer. All ships report ready status. Zekthar looked at the small blue world one final time. It really was quite beautiful, he admitted. The Council would likely preserve the biosphere once the humans were removed. The planet would make an excellent resort world for Council members, once properly terraformed to accommodate more civilized species. Very well. All ships commence bombardment. Target population centers first, then military installations. Standard planetary pacification protocols. The combined fleet opened fire simultaneously. Lance beams capable of piercing continental plates, plasma bombardments that could melt cities, and quantum disruptors that could shatter molecular bonds all converged on the planet below. The energy release was so intense that several sensor arrays automatically shut down to prevent overload. For exactly 3.7 seconds, the surface of Earth was hidden beneath a brilliant aurora of destruction. As 12 different civilizations' most advanced weapons struck simultaneously, then something impossible happened. The weapons fire bounced off, not absorbed, not dissipated, not redirected. It bounced off the planet's atmosphere like light reflecting from a mirror. Every lance beam, every plasma bolt, every quantum disruptor blast ricocheted back into space with perfect reflection angles. What in the name of the first creators just happened? Zekthar demanded. Before anyone could answer, his ship's proximity alarms began screaming. The reflected weapons fire was coming back, all of it, perfectly aimed at the ships that had fired it. The Eternal Dominion shuddered as its own lance beams struck its forward shields. Across the fleet, other ships were being hit by their own weapons, reflected with deadly precision back at their points of origin. Emergency evasive maneuvers, Zekthar shouted. All ships, emergency evasive maneuvers. But the reflected fire wasn't random. It followed the ships as they moved, adjusting trajectory in real time as if guided by impossible accuracy. The Corvin battlecruiser Death's Edge took a direct hit from its own quantum disruptors and simply ceased to exist. The Thaxian dreadnought Iron Fist was cut in half by its own lance beams. Admiral, the communications officer called out in panic. We're receiving another transmission from the planet. Put it through! The view screen flickered to life, showing what appeared to be a human military officer standing in some kind of command center. Behind him, dozens of other humans worked at control stations, all of them appearing remarkably calm, given that a galactic armada was attempting to destroy their world. The human looked directly at Zekthar and smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Gentlemen, the human said in perfect galactic standard, welcome to Earth. We hope you enjoyed our little demonstration. That was just our defensive system saying hello. Now, would you like to see what happens when we get serious? General Marcus Chen watched the alien fleet's panicked movements on the holographic display with grim satisfaction. The orbital defense grid had performed exactly as designed, though he had to admit the aliens' reaction was more dramatic than the simulations had predicted. 3 enemy vessels had been completely destroyed by their own weapons, and several others were showing significant damage. Status report, he called to his operations team. Mirror shield holding steady at 98% efficiency, reported Dr. Sarah Kim from the physics station. Quantum reflectors are operating within normal parameters. We're tracking 12 distinct weapon types in their arsenal, and the adaptive algorithms have successfully cataloged countermeasures for all of them. Outstanding. Communications, are we still broadcasting the music package? Yes, sir. Current rotation includes Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries, AC/DC's Thunderstruck, and something called Rip and Tear from an old video game soundtrack. The aliens seemed particularly disturbed by the death metal selections. Chen nodded approvingly. The Psychological Warfare Division had spent considerable effort selecting audio that would be maximally unsettling to alien sensibilities. Early intelligence suggested that most galactic species found human music either incomprehensible or actively disturbing. Something about the mathematical structures and emotional intensity translated poorly across species barriers. Sir, called Lieutenant Torres from the sensor station, the alien fleet is regrouping. Looks like they're trying to establish a new formation outside our defensive perimeter. Expected. They'll probably try a different approach now that the direct assault failed. Dr. Kim, How long until the mirror satellites are in position? The physicist consulted her displays. 18 minutes until optimal coverage. The fabrication facilities have been running non-stop since we detected their approach. We'll have complete spherical protection around Earth, plus offensive capabilities. Chen allowed himself a small smile. The aliens had made a fundamental error in their assessment of humanity. They had assumed that a species new to interstellar travel would be primitive, vulnerable, easy to conquer. They had failed to understand that humans didn't achieve technological advancement through gradual, peaceful development like most species. Humanity had clawed its way to the stars through warfare, competition, and an absolutely pathological refusal to give up in the face of impossible odds. Every major technological breakthrough in human history had been driven by conflict, necessity, or pure bloody-minded stubbornness. Nuclear power, computers, aerospace technology, quantum mechanics, even the FTL drive itself had all emerged from humanity's endless capacity for turning problems into weapons. General, we're receiving another communication from the lead alien vessel, the communications officer announced. Put it through. The main screen displayed the same alien commander they had spoken to earlier. The creature looked significantly less confident than before, though Chen had to guess at its emotional state given the difficulty of reading expressions across species lines. Human Commander, the alien began. I am Admiral Zekthar of the Galactic Council Enforcement Fleet. Your defensive capabilities are impressive. However, you face the combined might of 12 civilizations. Surely we can reach some accommodation. Chen stepped forward, making sure his expression remained neutral. Admiral Zekthar, I'm General Chen, commanding Earth's defensive forces. You're absolutely right that we can reach an accommodation. It's quite simple, actually. Leave our solar system immediately, and we won't destroy your entire fleet. The alien's mandibles clicked rapidly, which Chen's briefing materials suggested indicated agitation or disbelief. General Chen, I think you misunderstand the situation. We have over 200 ships in this fleet, representing technology developed across thousands of years of galactic civilization. Your single world cannot possibly threaten a force of this magnitude. Admiral, I think you misunderstand the situation, Chen replied calmly. You attacked our planet without provocation. In human culture, that makes you invaders. We have a very specific way of dealing with invaders. And what way is that? Chen's smile was cold and predatory. We kill them all. The transmission cut out. Chen turned back to his command staff, noting with satisfaction that the alien fleet was maintaining its distance from Earth's defensive perimeter. They were learning, at least. Dr. Kim, what's the status on the Project Damocles platforms? Final assembly in progress, General. The orbital shipyards have been working around the clock since we first detected the alien approach. We'll have 6 fully operational platforms within the next 4 hours. Chen nodded. Project Damocles had been humanity's first true weapons project after achieving FTL capability. When the initial alien contact had gone badly, military planners had immediately begun preparing for the possibility of interstellar warfare. The project's name came from the ancient Greek story of a sword hanging by a thread over a king's head, an apt metaphor for weapons designed to hang like invisible threats over enemy fleets. Sir, Lieutenant Torres called out urgently. I'm detecting new contacts. Looks like the aliens are bringing in reinforcements. The tactical display updated to show additional fleets dropping out of FTL at the edge of the solar system. Chen counted quickly and whistled low. The aliens weren't just doubling down, they were quintupling down. Over 1,000 ships now surrounded Earth's solar system, representing what had to be a significant portion of the galaxy's combined military strength. Well, Chen muttered, they're certainly taking us seriously now. General, Dr. Kim said quietly, even with our defensive capabilities, that's a lot of firepower. If they coordinate properly and saturate our defenses, they won't get the chance, Chen replied confidently. Dr. Hendricks, is the Prometheus array online? Dr. Elizabeth Hendricks looked up from her station with barely contained excitement. As the head of humanity's experimental weapons division, she had been looking forward to this moment for months. Yes, sir. All systems green. We have full targeting solutions on every hostile vessel in the system. Outstanding. What's our estimated kill ratio? Conservative estimate? 85% of their fleet eliminated in the first salvo. We might need a second shot to clean up the survivors. The communications officer spoke up again. Sir, we're receiving multiple transmissions from the alien fleet. It appears they're arguing among themselves. Put it on speakers. The command center filled with a cacophony of alien voices speaking in dozens of different languages. The universal translators worked overtime to sort through the chaos, but fragments came through clearly. Told you humans were dangerous. Should have used orbital. Bombardment. Never seen defensive technology like this. Maybe we should reconsider. Cowards. The council demands compliance. Chen listened to the arguing with growing amusement. The alien alliance was fracturing already. Some species wanted to retreat and reassess. Others wanted to press the attack, and a few were apparently suggesting negotiations. It was a classic problem with coalition warfare. The moment things got difficult, everyone started having second thoughts about the battle plan. General, Dr. Hendricks said, I'm showing multiple alien vessels breaking formation. Looks like some of them are actually leaving the system. How many? Initial count suggests about 200 ships have jumped to FTL. They're gone. Chen felt a surge of satisfaction. Nothing broke up an alien invasion fleet, quite like the prospect of facing weapons they couldn't understand or counter. The remaining ships were likely the hardliners. The species too proud or too committed to the invasion to back down now. Sir, the communications officer announced, we're receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Zekthar. He's requesting immediate negotiations. Tell him he has 10 minutes to withdraw his fleet from our solar system, or we'll demonstrate why that's a really good idea. And if he refuses? Chen looked at the tactical display showing the remaining 800 alien vessels. They had come to his system expecting to find a primitive, defenseless world ripe for conquest. Instead, they had found something they weren't prepared for, a species that had spent its entire evolutionary history perfecting the art of warfare. Then we show them what happens when you threaten humanity's home. Admiral Zekthar stared at the chronometer on his command console as the final seconds ticked away. The human had given him 10 minutes to withdraw from their solar system. 9 minutes and 47 seconds had passed and his fleet remained in position. He had spent those precious minutes trying to convince his allied commanders to maintain formation. But the coalition was fracturing faster than a neutron star collapse. The Veltari had been the first to leave. Their spindly forms apparently possessed of more wisdom than courage. The crystalline Zephyrians had followed shortly after, their ships vanishing into hyperspace without so much as a farewell transmission. Now the Corvin Hive Admiral was openly questioning the wisdom of continuing the assault. Admiral, buzzed the Corvin commander through the fleet communications, my tactical analyst cannot identify the human's defensive technology. Our weapons fire was reflected with 100% efficiency. This is physically impossible according to known laws. Impossible or not, it happened, Zekthar replied curtly. The Council has committed us to this operation. We cannot return to the core worlds having been defeated by a single primitive planet. Perhaps primitive was an incorrect assessment, suggested another voice. This one belonging to Commander Vexhall of the Thaxian Iron Fleet. My engineering teams have been analyzing the reflection patterns. The humans aren't just bouncing our weapons back randomly. They're actively targeting specific subsystems on our ships. Their first volley disabled our quantum disruptors. The second took out our shield generators. They're surgically dismantling our capabilities. Zekthar felt a cold sensation that he recognized as fear. In his 300 years of military service, he had conquered dozens of worlds and faced countless enemy fleets. Never before had he encountered an opponent that could turn his own weapons against him with such precision. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the human deadline has expired. Any response from the planet? Yes, sir. A single transmission. It reads, time's up. The sensors immediately began screaming alerts. Energy signatures were spiking across the human solar system, but not from the planet itself. The readings were coming from space, from positions that had been empty moments before. Contact. Multiple contacts. The tactical officer shouted. I'm reading 6 massive installations appearing throughout the system. They're materializing out of nowhere. On the tactical display, 6 enormous structures flickered into existence, positioned at strategic points around the solar system's perimeter. Each platform was the size of a small moon, bristling with weapons arrays that defied immediate classification. Stealth technology? Zekthar asked, though he knew no known stealth system could hide something that large. Negative, sir. Our gravimetric sensors show no displacement signatures. These installations weren't hidden. They literally didn't exist until this moment. Zekthar felt his species' equivalent of a cold sweat. Instantaneous matter creation was purely theoretical, requiring energy expenditures that would drain the core of a star. Yet somehow the humans had just created 6 military installations out of nothing. "Admiral," the communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission from the human planet. It's being broadcast simultaneously to all ships in the fleet." "Put it through." The view screen displayed the same human general they had spoken with earlier. Behind him, the human command center showed a level of calm activity that seemed almost insulting given the circumstances. "Admiral Zekthar," General Chen began, "you have exceeded your deadline. We offered you the opportunity to leave peacefully. Since you have chosen to remain, we will now demonstrate why attacking Earth was a mistake." "Human," Zekthar replied, trying to project more confidence than he felt. "Your defensive capabilities are impressive, but you face nearly 1,000 ships. Whatever weapons those platforms carry, they cannot possibly destroy a fleet of this size." Chen's smile was genuinely disturbing. "Admiral, you're absolutely right. Those platforms can't destroy a fleet of your size." Zekthar felt a moment of relief before Chen continued. "They can destroy a fleet 10 times your size. What you're seeing is our minimum viable deterrent. We call it Project Damocles. Each platform can generate what we term a stellar lance, essentially a focused beam of the same nuclear fusion that powers a star. The effective range is approximately 50 light-years. The alien admiral felt his mandibles go numb. Stellar-level energy output concentrated into a weapons beam was beyond theoretical. It was the kind of technology that civilizations developed after millennia of advancement, not centuries. "That's impossible," he managed to say. "You keep using that word," Chen replied. "I don't think it means what you think it means. Dr. Hendricks, please demonstrate the Damocles Array's capabilities. Target the asteroid belt between the 4th and 5th planets. On every ship's sensor array, energy readings spiked beyond measurement capability. 6 beams of coherent stellar energy lanced out from the mysterious platforms, converging on the asteroid belt that orbited between Mars and Jupiter. The combined energy release was visible to the naked eye as brilliant lines of light that briefly outshone the system's star. Where the asteroid belt had been, there was now empty space. Billions of tons of rock and metal had been instantly converted to plasma and scattered to the solar winds. The demonstration had lasted exactly 2.3 seconds. The asteroid belt contained approximately 4 trillion tons of material, Chen continued conversationally. Our targeting computers can track and eliminate individual ships with the same precision. Would you like us to demonstrate on your fleet? Across the communication channels, Zekthar could hear panic spreading through the Allied fleet. Ship commanders were demanding immediate withdrawal orders. Several vessels were already charging their FTL drives without authorization. "Admiral," his own tactical officer whispered urgently, "we need to leave. Now. Those energy readings suggest they could destroy our entire fleet simultaneously." Zekthar stared at the empty space where the asteroid belt had been. In over 1,000 years of galactic history, no species had ever demonstrated that level of destructive capability. The humans hadn't just built weapons. They had built instruments of annihilation. "General Chen," he said finally, "perhaps we should discuss terms." "Terms are simple, Admiral. You leave our solar system immediately and never return. You tell your galactic council that Earth is off limits. Any future aggressive action against humanity will result in us bringing these weapons to your homeworlds. You're threatening the core worlds of galactic civilization." Chen's expression didn't change. "Admiral, we're not threatening anyone. We're making a promise. If you leave us alone, we'll leave you alone. If you attack us again, we'll introduce your entire civilization to the concept of total war. And trust me when I say that humans have had a lot more practice at total war than you have. The Council will never accept this. They will send larger fleets. Then we'll build larger weapons," Chen replied simply. "Admiral, humanity has spent its entire history fighting. We've fought each other, we've fought nature, we've fought physics itself to get to the stars. Fighting is what we do. It's what we're good at. You came here expecting to find a primitive world you could easily conquer. Instead, you found a species that treats warfare as an art form." Zekthar looked around his bridge at his increasingly panicked crew. Half the fleet had already jumped to FTL, abandoning the invasion without orders. The remaining ships were demanding immediate withdrawal. "Human," he said finally, "this is not over. The Council has resources you cannot imagine. Chen's smile was cold and final. Admiral, the Council is about to discover that humanity has an imagination they cannot comprehend. You have 30 seconds to begin your withdrawal, or we'll help you leave faster than you intended. The transmission ended. Zekthar looked at his tactical display one final time. Seeing his once mighty invasion fleet reduced to fewer than 300 ships, all of them requesting permission to retreat. All ships, he transmitted on the fleet frequency. Immediate withdrawal to hyperspace. Emergency protocols. As his ship's FTL drive engaged and the human solar system vanished behind them, Zekthar realized he had just participated in the shortest and most decisive military defeat in galactic history. Worse, he had the feeling that this was only the beginning of humanity's impact on the galaxy. The humans had made their point with terrifying clarity. They were not prey to be hunted. They were predators who had just announced their presence to the universe. The Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime had never seen such chaos. Representatives from 12 different species shouted, chittered, buzzed, and howled in their native languages while the universal translators worked overtime to convert the cacophony into something resembling coherent debate. At the center of the amphitheater, High Counselor Mordax struggled to maintain order with increasingly futile calls for calm. Admiral Zekthar stood at the testimony podium. His confidence from 3 days ago completely evaporated. The after-action reports from the failed Earth invasion had sent shockwaves through the galactic community. A fleet of over 1,000 ships representing the combined military might of the Council's most powerful members had been routed by a single planet. Order! Mordax's voice boomed through the chamber's acoustic enhancement system. We will have order in this session. Gradually, the chaos subsided to angry murmurs. The High Counselor, an ancient being whose species had been among the founders of galactic civilization, fixed his multiple eyes on the assembled representatives. Admiral Zekthar, Mordax began, please explain to this council how a combined fleet of over 1,000 vessels was defeated by a species that achieved FTL travel less than 1 year ago. Zekthar straightened, though his usual military bearing was noticeably absent. High Counselor honored representatives. The humans possess technology that defies our current understanding of physics. Their defensive capabilities include perfect energy reflection, instantaneous matter creation, and weapons that channel stellar-level energy output. A ripple of disbelief ran through the chamber. Representative Kexval of the Veltari Federation stood, her forearms gesturing dramatically. This is impossible. No species developed such advanced technology so quickly. Our own advancement took millennia to reach current capabilities. With respect, Representative Kexval, Zekthar replied, I witnessed these capabilities firsthand. The humans eliminated our entire asteroid mining operation in 2.3 seconds, using focused stellar energy. Their defensive systems reflected our most advanced weapons with perfect precision, targeting specific subsystems on our ships. Representative Thokmar of the Corvin Hive clicked his mandibles aggressively. Perhaps the Admiral's tactical incompetence is being covered up with fantastic claims. No species could develop such technology independently. Zekthar's own mandibles flared. Are you suggesting I fabricated the destruction of half our fleet? The sensor logs are available for review. 347 ships were lost or severely damaged. The humans' demonstration removed 4 trillion tons of asteroid material from existence. High Counselor Mordax raised a manipulator for silence. Admiral, in your assessment, how do the humans pose such a threat? What makes them different from other species we have integrated? Zekthar paused, considering his words carefully. During the long journey back to Council space, he had reviewed everything known about human history and culture. What he had discovered was deeply disturbing. High Counselor, most species develop technology through gradual, peaceful advancement over long periods. They explore, they learn, they grow. Humans are different. Their entire technological development has been driven by warfare, competition, and survival pressure. Every major breakthrough in their history emerged from conflict or the threat of extinction. He gestured to the holographic display showing human history. They split the atom not for energy but for weapons. They reached space not for exploration, but to gain military advantage. They developed quantum mechanics while fighting a global war. Even their internet was originally a military communication system designed to survive nuclear attack. Representative Silthan of the peaceful Zephyrian collective, spoke in crystalline tones. Surely this cannot make them superior to civilizations with thousands of years more experience. Representative Silthan, it makes them fundamentally different, Zekthar explained. Most species view warfare as an unfortunate necessity. Humans view it as a problem-solving tool. When faced with any challenge, their first instinct is to find a way to fight it. They don't just develop weapons, they develop entirely new ways of thinking about conflict. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, Representative Orcs of the militant Thaxian Empire stood. If these humans are so dangerous, we must mobilize the full resources of the Council. Bring every fleet, every weapon. Destroy them before they become a greater threat. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber, but Zekthar held up a manipulator. Representative Orcs, with respect, I believe that would be catastrophic. The humans made their position very clear. They offered us peace in exchange for being left alone. When we refused, they demonstrated their defensive capabilities. When we persisted, they showed us weapons that could sterilize entire star systems. So you suggest we simply accept this insult to Council authority? Orcs demanded. I suggest we consider the humans' final transmission, Zekthar replied grimly. He activated the holographic display, showing General Chen's image. Chen's recorded voice filled the chamber. Admiral, the Council is about to discover that humanity has an imagination they cannot comprehend. You have 30 seconds to begin your withdrawal, or we'll help you leave faster than you intended. Note the phrasing, Zekthar continued. He didn't threaten us with their current weapons. He threatened us with their imagination. The humans we encountered were calm, confident, and completely prepared for our attack. They knew we were coming. They knew our capabilities, and they had countermeasures ready. High Counselor Mordax leaned forward. What are you suggesting, Admiral? I'm suggesting that everything we witnessed was a carefully planned demonstration. The humans wanted to show us exactly enough of their capabilities to make us leave, without revealing their full potential. They could have destroyed our entire fleet instantly, but they chose not to. They wanted survivors to carry the message back to the Council. The chamber erupted in angry voices again. The suggestion that a primitive species had deliberately allowed Council forces to escape was almost too insulting to consider. Furthermore, Zekthar continued over the noise. Our intelligence suggests that what we saw were their defensive installations. We have no data on their offensive capabilities. If they can create stellar-powered weapons for defense, what might they have developed for attack? Representative Vokhan of the ancient elder race spoke for the first time, her voice carrying the weight of millennia. Admiral, in your professional opinion, what would be the outcome if the Council assembled its full military might against this human species? Zekthar looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives from species that had conquered thousands of worlds across galactic history. These beings had built an empire spanning a quarter of the galaxy through superior technology and overwhelming force. They had never encountered a species they couldn't defeat or integrate. Representative Vokhan, he said slowly, I believe we would lose. Not just the battle, the war. The humans demonstrated technology that suggests they could strike any target within 50 light-years instantly. That range encompasses 47 Council worlds, including Nexus Prime. The chamber fell completely silent. The idea that their own capital world could be threatened by a species they had discovered only months ago was almost incomprehensible. Moreover, Zekthar continued, the humans' approach to warfare is fundamentally different from ours. We fight to conquer and integrate. They fight to win. Their concept of total war means the complete destruction of their enemy's ability to resist. If we escalate this conflict, they will not simply defeat our fleets. They will eliminate every Council world that poses a threat. High Counselor Mordax stood slowly, his ancient frame showing the weight of his years and the burden of his position. Members of the Council, we face an unprecedented situation. A single world has successfully defied our authority and demonstrated the capability to threaten our civilization. What course of action do you recommend? The chamber remained silent for long moments before Representative Kexval spoke quietly. Perhaps we should consider the humans' offer. They asked only to be left alone. If we respect their sovereignty, they indicated they would respect ours. And if we don't? Asked Representative Kork. Zekthar activated the display one final time, showing the empty space where Earth's asteroid belt had been. Then we discover what humanity's imagination can truly accomplish. And I do not believe our civilization would survive that education. Dr. Sarah Kim stood in the observation deck of Prometheus Station, watching the construction crews put the finishing touches on humanity's newest orbital facility. 3 months had passed since the Galactic Council's failed invasion, and Earth's response had been characteristically human. If someone tried to attack them once, they would make sure it could never happen again. Beautiful, isn't it? General Chen joined her at the massive viewport, looking out at the sprawling construction project that now surrounded Earth like a mechanical shell. Terrifying might be a better word, Sarah replied, though her voice carried a note of professional pride. We've essentially turned our entire solar system into a fortress. The aliens probably think we're paranoid. The aliens would be right, Chen said with a slight smile. Paranoia is what kept humanity alive long enough to reach the stars. Speaking of which, how are the new installations coming along? Sarah consulted her tablet, scrolling through progress reports. The Sword of Damocles network is fully operational. 48 orbital platforms, each capable of stellar lance output. The mirror shield array has been expanded to provide complete spherical coverage around Earth, Mars, and the asteroid belt colonies. And the new addition, the Aegis network, should be online within the week. Remind me what Aegis does again? Preemptive strike capability, Sarah explained. If any hostile fleet drops out of FTL within 100 light-years of Earth, Aegis can target and eliminate them before they have time to react. Essentially, we've created a defensive zone around our solar system where enemy ships simply cannot exist. Chen nodded approvingly. The human military had learned hard lessons from the first alien contact. Never again would Earth be caught unprepared for hostile contact. The new defensive network was designed to protect not just their homeworld, but the growing human colonies throughout local space. Any word from our diplomatic mission to the Council? He asked. Ambassador Rodriguez transmitted her latest report this morning. The Council is still debating how to respond to our existence. Apparently, there's significant disagreement about whether to attempt another invasion, try diplomatic contact, or simply pretend we don't exist. And what's the ambassador's assessment? Sarah's expression grew serious. She believes approximately 30% of Council species favor immediate military action. They view our successful defense as an insult that cannot be allowed to stand. Another 40% want to attempt peaceful contact and negotiation. The remaining 30%, led by several of the older species, are advocating for complete avoidance. That's a problem. 30% of the galaxy wanting to destroy us is about 29% too many. It gets worse, General. Ambassador Rodriguez has identified several species that are actively developing countermeasures to our demonstrated capabilities. The Corvin Hive has apparently tripled their military research budget and is focusing specifically on anti-reflection technologies. The Thaxian Empire is experimenting with distributed fleet tactics designed to overwhelm our defenses through sheer numbers. Chen sighed. This was exactly what he had feared. Humanity's demonstration of power had been intended to deter future attacks, but it had also painted a target on their backs. Species that might have ignored Earth indefinitely were now viewing humanity as an existential threat that needed to be eliminated. Any good news in that report? Some. The Veltari Federation has formally proposed a non-aggression pact. They're apparently quite impressed with our creative approach to defensive engineering. The Zephyrian Collective has expressed interest in cultural exchange, though they've requested that we tone down our music broadcasts. Absolutely not, Chen replied immediately. The music stays. It's psychological warfare at its finest. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent chime from the station's communication system. Lieutenant Torres's voice echoed through the observation deck. General Chen, priority transmission from Deep Space Monitor Network. We have multiple contacts dropping out of FTL at the edge of the system. Chen and Sarah exchanged glances before heading quickly to the command center. The holographic display showed dozens of red contacts appearing throughout the outer solar system, but these weren't arranged in attack formations. Instead, they appeared to be scattered randomly, some maintaining significant distance from each other. Status report, Chen ordered as he entered the command center. Sir, we're tracking 67 contacts of various sizes, Torres reported. Initial scans suggest they represent at least 15 different species. They're not moving in coordinated fashion, and none of them are broadcasting hostile intent. Any communications? Yes, sir, multiple channels. They appear to be... Torres paused, checking his readings again. Sir, they appear to be refugees. Refugees? Sarah asked. From what? Their answer came in the form of a priority transmission on the diplomatic frequency. The main screen displayed a creature that none of them recognized. A vaguely humanoid being with silver skin and large, multifaceted eyes. Human vessels, the being said in heavily accented galactic standard. This is Captain Zixel of the independent freighter Starwalker. We request permission to enter your system. We are seeking sanctuary. Chen stepped forward. Captain Zixel, this is General Chen of Earth Defense Forces. What are you seeking sanctuary from? The Council Purge Fleet, General. 3 days ago, the Galactic Council declared all species that refused to participate in the upcoming human elimination campaign to be enemies of galactic order. My people, the Nexari, chose neutrality. The Council chose extermination. The command center fell silent. Chen felt a cold sensation in his stomach as the implications became clear. Captain, are you saying the Council is attacking neutral species? Not just attacking, General, destroying completely. The Nexari homeworld was sterilized yesterday. We are all that remains of our species. A few hundred individuals scattered across merchant vessels and exploration ships. Sarah grabbed Chen's arm. General, if the Council is eliminating neutral species, they're essentially forcing everyone to choose sides. Join the invasion of Earth or face extinction. More transmissions were coming in now, as other refugee ships requested permission to enter the solar system. The species were varied, some humanoid, others completely alien, but their stories were depressingly similar. World after world had been given the ultimatum. Join the Council's war against humanity or be destroyed as a potential human ally. General, Torres called out urgently, Deep Space Network is reporting massive FTL signatures beyond the heliopause. Something big is coming. The display updated to show energy readings that dwarfed anything they had seen before. Whatever was approaching Earth was larger than the previous invasion fleet by several orders of magnitude. Sir, the communications officer announced, we're receiving a transmission on all frequencies. It's addressed to the human barbarians who dare defy galactic order. Put it through. The screen displayed a being that radiated authority and age. This was clearly one of the Council's elder species, its form suggesting millennia of evolutionary refinement. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. Humans of Earth, the being began, I am High Executor Vexthul of the Council Purge Fleet. You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. Any refusal will result in the complete sterilization of your system and the elimination of every refugee species that has sought sanctuary with you. The transmission showed the true scale of the approaching fleet. Thousands of ships representing dozens of species all converging on Earth's solar system. This wasn't just an invasion force, it was the entire combined military might of galactic civilization. Furthermore, Vexthul continued, any species that refuses to participate in your destruction will share your fate. The galaxy will be purged of all who oppose Council authority. You have forced us to choose between accepting your defiance or maintaining our civilization. We choose civilization. The transmission ended. Chen looked around his command center at the faces of his staff. They had known this moment would come eventually, but seeing it arrive was still a shock. Well, he said finally, it looks like the galaxy wants a war. Torres, send a message to all refugee ships. Welcome to the solar defense perimeter. Dr. Kim, how long until all our systems are fully operational? Aegis network comes online in 6 hours, General. Then we have 6 hours to prepare for the largest battle in galactic history. Chen turned to the communications officer. Send a message to High Executor Vexthul. Tell him humanity accepts his challenge and we'll see him soon. What should I tell the refugee ships, sir? Chen looked out at the display showing dozens of ships filled with the survivors of extinct civilizations, species that had chosen to stand with humanity rather than participate in genocide. Tell them welcome to the human race, and tell them we're about to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten our friends. The final hour before the largest battle in galactic history passed with surprising calm aboard Prometheus Station. General Chen walked through the command center, observing his staff as they made final preparations for what everyone understood would be humanity's ultimate test. The refugee ships had been moved to secure positions within Earth's defensive perimeter. their crews working alongside human technicians to integrate their vessels into the defensive network. General, Dr. Kim approached with her final systems report. All defensive arrays are fully operational. Aegis network is online and tracking every ship in the approaching fleet. We have complete targeting solutions for all 4,637 hostile vessels. Chen paused in his review of tactical displays. 4,637? That's nearly 5 times larger than the first invasion fleet. Yes, sir. The Council has apparently committed every military asset they possess to this operation. According to refugee intelligence, several species were forced to strip their homeworld defenses to contribute ships to the fleet. Any chance they'll reconsider when they see our defensive capabilities? Sarah's expression was grim. I don't think so, General. The refugee captains have been sharing intelligence about the Council's state of mind. This isn't just about conquering Earth anymore. It's about maintaining the fundamental principle that the Council cannot be defied. If we survive this, their entire governmental structure collapses. So they're willing to commit genocide to maintain political control. It's worse than that. According to Captain Zixel, the Council has classified this as an existential threat response. They've authorized the use of weapons that have been banned for over 1,000 years. Planet killers, stellar disruptors, weapons that can destabilize entire solar systems. Chen felt the familiar cold sensation that came with truly bad news. Humanity's defensive systems were impressive, but they had been designed to counter conventional weapons. If the Council was bringing planet-killing technology to the fight, Earth's survival was far from guaranteed. Dr. Kim, can our defenses handle stellar disruptors? Unknown, General. We've never had the opportunity to test against that level of destructive force. Theoretical models suggest the mirror shield could reflect the energy, but we're talking about weapons designed to make stars go supernova. The energy scales involved are... She paused, searching for the right words. Significant. Sir, Lieutenant Torres called out from his station. The Council fleet is dropping out of FTL. They're taking positions throughout the outer system. The holographic display updated to show the true scale of what Earth faced. Thousands of ships arranged in concentric spheres around the solar system, representing every major civilization in the galaxy. At the center of the formation, a vessel that could only be described as a mobile space station dominated the display. That's the Council's flagship. Captain Zixel had joined them in the command center, her silver features reflecting the glow from the tactical displays. The Eternal Judgment. It's a prototype weapon platform, built specifically for destroying entire solar systems. They've never used it in actual combat before. What's its primary armament? Chen asked, though he suspected he didn't want to know the answer. Something they call a galactic lance. It's designed to channel the energy output of multiple stars into a single focused beam. The theoretical range is unlimited, and it can supposedly penetrate any known defensive system. Chen looked at the massive vessel on the display. Humanity had spent months preparing for this moment, building defenses that represented the absolute pinnacle of their technological capability. Now they were about to face a weapon that had been designed by civilizations with thousands of years more experience in warfare. General, the communications officer announced, we're receiving a transmission from the Council flagship. Put it through. High Executor Vexthal appeared on the main screen, but his previous air of calm authority had been replaced by something that looked very much like fanatical determination. Humans of Earth, your hour has expired. You have chosen to protect the enemies of galactic order and refused to submit to Council authority. The consequences of your defiance will serve as an example to any future species that might consider similar actions. Chen stepped forward. High Executor, we offered you peace. You chose war. The consequences of that choice are on your head, not ours. Peace? Vexthal's voice carried millennia of accumulated arrogance. Humans, you are a species barely out of your planetary cradle. You possess technology that should not exist. Weapons that violate the natural order of advancement. You are an aberration that threatens the stability of galactic civilization. Your elimination is not revenge, it is necessary surgery. Executor, you came to our home system with invasion fleets twice now. You've committed genocide against neutral species. You're the ones threatening galactic stability. We maintain order. Vexthal's composure finally cracked, revealing the fanaticism underneath. For 10,000 years, the Council has guided galactic development, preventing the chaos and warfare that consumed the galaxy before our rule. You represent a return to those dark ages, a species that develops weapons before wisdom, that chooses conflict over cooperation. Chen's voice remained steady. Executor, we never chose conflict. We chose to defend ourselves. There's a difference, a distinction without meaning. All ships commence final assault. Use all authorized weapons. Leave nothing alive in this system. The transmission ended. Chen looked around his command center at faces that showed determination rather than fear. His staff had spent months preparing for this moment, and now they would discover if human ingenuity could overcome the combined might of galactic civilization. All stations. Report readiness, he called out. Mirror shield at full power, Dr. Kim reported. Aegis network has targeting locks on all hostile vessels. Damocles array standing by for defensive fire. Refugee ships have moved to secure positions within the defensive perimeter. Torres added. All human installations report ready status. Sir, the sensor operator called out urgently. Massive energy spike from the Council flagship. They're charging their primary weapon. On the display, the eternal judgment began to glow with a light that grew steadily brighter. Energy readings climbed beyond anything Earth sensors had previously recorded. This wasn't just a weapon, it was a force of nature harnessed for destruction. Galactic lance charging complete, the sensor operator reported. They're targeting Earth directly. Chen watched the readings climb to impossible levels. In moments, his homeworld would face a weapon designed to destroy entire solar systems. Everything humanity had built, everything they had achieved, would be tested against the ultimate expression of galactic military technology. Dr. Kim, can the mirror shield handle that energy level? Sarah looked at her readings and shook her head slowly. General, the energy output they're generating is equivalent to multiple stellar cores. Even if we can reflect it, the gravitational effects alone could destabilize our solar system. Then we don't reflect it, Chen said quietly. We redirect it, sir. Chen turned to the communications panel. All refugee ships, this is General Chen. You came to us seeking sanctuary from tyranny. Today we stand together against the forces that would destroy anyone who refuses to submit. Today we show the galaxy what happens when free peoples unite against oppression. He paused, looking out at the display showing thousands of enemy ships and the massive weapon preparing to destroy his world. All ships, all stations, all defensive platforms, engage the enemy. And remember, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for the right of every species in the galaxy to choose their own destiny. The eternal judgment fired its galactic lance, sending a beam of pure stellar energy racing toward Earth at the speed of light. At the same moment, every human defensive installation and every refugee ship opened fire simultaneously. The final battle for humanity's survival had begun. The galactic lance struck Earth's mirror shield with the force of a dying star. For a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, the entire solar system was bathed in light so brilliant that it could be seen from neighboring star systems. The energy release registered on sensors across half the galaxy as two incompatible technologies met in violent opposition. General Chen gripped the railing of his command platform as Prometheus Station shuddered under gravitational waves generated by the titanic energy exchange. Around him, his staff fought to maintain their positions as reality itself seemed to bend under the strain of forces never meant to coexist. Shield status, he shouted over the howling of stressed metal and electronic alerts. Mirror shield holding, Dr. Kim called back, her voice barely audible above the chaos. But the energy levels are beyond anything we designed for. The quantum substrate is showing stress fractures. On the tactical display, Earth appeared as a brilliant star surrounded by geometric patterns of light, as the mirror shield absorbed and redirected the galactic lance's impossible energy output. But instead of simply reflecting the beam back at its source, the human defensive network was doing something far more sophisticated. General, Torres yelled from his station, the Aegis network is channeling the redirected energy into its own targeting systems. It's using the Council's weapon to power our counterattack. Chen felt a surge of fierce pride. Even faced with weapons designed to destroy solar systems, human engineering had found a way to turn the enemy's strength against them. The redirected energy from the galactic lance was being channeled through the Aegis network's quantum conduits, amplifying humanity's own weapons to levels that matched their attackers. Across the solar system, 48 Damocles platforms opened fire simultaneously, but instead of their normal stellar lance output, each beam now carried a portion of the galactic lance's redirected energy. The combined firepower struck the Council fleet like the wrath of an angry god. The first salvo eliminated over 800 ships in less than 3 seconds. The second salvo, fired before the Council forces could react, destroyed another 1,000 vessels. By the time the enemy fleet began evasive maneuvers, half their forces had been reduced to expanding clouds of plasma. Impossible, High Executor. Vexthul's voice screamed over the communication channels. How are you channeling our own weapon against us? Chen stepped to the communications console, watching as his counterstrike systematically dismantled the largest military force in galactic history. Executor, you made the same mistake everyone makes when fighting humanity. You assumed we would fight the way you fight. You brought overwhelming force expecting us to try to match it. Instead, we turned your strength into our weapon. The Council flagship was repositioning, attempting to bring its secondary weapons to bear, but the human targeting systems tracked its movement with perfect precision. 3 Damocles platforms focused their enhanced output on the Eternal Judgment, their combined fire striking the massive vessel's shields with enough force to crack planets. This is impossible. Vexthul repeated, his transmission now showing the chaos aboard his flagship as systems overloaded and entire sections lost power. Your species should not possess this capability. You've been spacefaring for less than a year. Executor, Chen replied calmly as he watched the Council's supposedly invincible flagship begin to break apart under sustained fire. You keep making the same error. You judge our capabilities based on how long we've been in space. You should be judging them based on how long we've been at war. And humans have been at war since before we discovered fire. The refugee ships had joined the battle now, their smaller weapons adding to the devastating barrage that was systematically eliminating Council forces throughout the solar system. Captain Zixel's voice came over the fleet communication network. Her words translated into dozens of languages for the benefit of the various refugee species. All free vessels, concentrate fire on the Council command ships. Today we end 10,000 years of tyranny. Today we show the galaxy that no one has the right to determine another species' fate. The battle, if it could still be called that, had become a rout. The Council fleet, designed to overwhelm any possible opposition through sheer numbers and superior technology, was being systematically destroyed by weapons that turned their own strength against them. Ship after ship vanished in brilliant flashes of light as the enhanced Damocles platforms maintained their devastating barrage. General, Dr. Kim reported, Mirror Shield is stabilizing. The quantum substrate has adapted to the energy input levels. We can maintain this indefinitely. Outstanding. Continue targeting Council command vessels. I want their leadership to understand exactly what they've unleashed. The Eternal Judgment finally succumbed to the focused fire from multiple platforms. The massive flagship, which had been designed to destroy entire civilizations, broke apart in a cascade of secondary explosions that lit up the outer solar system. High Executor Vexthul's final transmission was a wordless scream of rage and disbelief. Within 20 minutes of the battle's beginning, the Council's Grand Armada had been reduced to scattered survivors fleeing in random directions. Of the nearly 5,000 ships that had entered the solar system, fewer than 300 remained intact, and most of those were damaged beyond effective combat capability. Sir, Torres reported, we're receiving surrender transmissions from multiple Council vessels. They're requesting permission to withdraw from the system. Chen looked at the tactical display showing the scattered remnants of what had been the galaxy's most powerful military force. Part of him wanted to destroy them all, to eliminate any possible future threat to Earth. But another part of him, the part that remembered humanity's better angels, knew that mercy and victory was what separated civilization from barbarism. Grant their request, he said finally. Allow the survivors to withdraw, but make sure they understand the conditions. Sir, any Council ship that enters this solar system again will be destroyed without warning. Any species that threatens Earth or our refugee allies will face the full force of our defensive network. And any attempt to develop weapons specifically designed to counter our technology will be considered an act of war. As the surviving Council ships limped away into hyperspace, Chen turned to Captain Zixel, who had joined them in the command center to witness the battle's conclusion. Captain, what happens now? The Council's military force has been effectively eliminated, but they still control most of galactic civilization. Zixel's multifaceted eyes reflected the lights from the tactical display. General, what happens now is revolution. Every species that has lived under council oppression for millennia has just watched a single world destroy their supposedly invincible fleet. Every neutral species that was threatened with extinction will remember who offered them sanctuary. The galaxy will never be the same. Dr. Kim approached with a tablet showing casualty reports. General final battle assessment. We eliminated 4,237 council vessels with 0 human casualties. 6 refugee ships suffered minor damage, but no lives were lost among our allies. Chen nodded, then activated the fleet-wide communication system. His image was broadcast to every human installation, every refugee ship, and every surviving council vessel within sensor range. To all species listening to this transmission, he began, today marks the end of one era and the beginning of another. For 10,000 years, the Galactic Council has ruled through force and intimidation, demanding submission from every species they encountered. Today, that age of tyranny ended. He paused, looking directly into the camera. But humanity doesn't seek to replace the Council's tyranny with our own. We offer something different, the right of every species to determine their own destiny, free from the threat of extinction for refusing to submit to outside authority. To the surviving Council forces, return to your worlds and tell them what you witnessed here. Tell them that the age of forced compliance is over. Any species that wishes to live in peace will find friendship with humanity. Any species that seeks to impose their will on others will find themselves facing the same fate as your fleet. To our refugee allies, you are welcome to remain under Earth's protection for as long as you need. Together, we will build a new kind of galactic civilization, one based on cooperation rather than conquest, freedom rather than submission. And to any species listening who still lives under Council oppression, help is coming. The galaxy is about to learn that freedom is not a privilege granted by governments. It is a right defended by those willing to fight for it. The transmission ended. Shen looked out at the viewports showing Earth, beautiful and blue and safe beneath its shimmering defensive networks. Around the planet, the lights of construction crews could be seen as humanity expanded their defenses, preparing for whatever challenges the galaxy might bring next. Dr. Kim, he said quietly, begin Phase 2 of the defensive expansion. If we're going to be the galaxy's champions of freedom, we're going to need the infrastructure to back it up. Yes, sir. Should I assume we'll be dealing with larger opposition forces in the future?